This young girl, performing with her two sisters, would have been 100 years old this year, had she not been taken from us at the age of 47. She is Frances Ethel Gum, sometimes called Baby, but history will remember her as Judy Garland. I love this woman. If there was a power plant that ran on love, my love for this woman would power 50 Las Vegas strips for the next 500,000 years. She was a woman of many talents. She could sing, dance, act, make you laugh, make you cry, and make you fall in love with her. I believe that if Judy had lived a little bit longer than 47 years, I think she would have enjoyed working with the younger directors that were starting to emerge after the studio system was disbanded. She would have loved Steven Spielberg. She would have loved Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, George Lucas, Brian De Palma, Peter Bogdanovich. It's so sad that that never happened. She really would have loved it. For many years, many have labeled Judy's life as a tragedy, but people really need to acknowledge the fact that in spite of all the personal demons she endured, including the disease of addiction, she was a person who made millions of people happy. She had a wicked sense of humor. She was a loving mother to 3 beautiful children, one of whom would be one of the few people to win an Oscar, an Emmy, a Grammy, and a Tony. And ever since her death in 1969, Judy Garland is still loved and forever will be. So, on this occasion, the 100th birthday of this human angel, I'm going to reveal to you 12 of my favorite of her films. This is my top 12 favorite Judy Garland performances. Number 12, The Clock. Based on the unpublished short story by Paula and Paul Gallico, tells the story of a soldier on leave in New York for a period of no less than 2 days before he's to be redeployed. During that time, he falls for a beautiful young lady named Alice. This is one of 2 films on this list that isn't a musical. In fact, Judy Garland was asking MGM if she could do a non-musical film in an attempt to take a break from the strenuous, back-breaking labor that goes into doing a musical. It was producer Arthur Freed who approached her with the script for The Clock. At first, the film was to be directed by Fred Zinnemann, but Judy was unhappy with the footage he shot and did not get along at all with Zinnemann. Freed asked Judy who she wanted to replace Zinnemann, and she suggested Vincent Minnelli, after the two had fallen in love while making Meet Me in St. Louis. They ended up engaged at the end of filming The Clock. Her leading man was Robert Walker, who would later go on to be known as the villain in Alfred Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train. Just prior to the film's production, Walker discovered that his wife Jennifer Jones was having an affair with producer David O. Selznick. During filming, Judy found him intoxicated at a Los Angeles bar and had to get him sober, so he had to be ready for the next day's shoot. Now, because of World War II, filming on location in New York was out of the question, so everything was built on a soundstage at a cost of more than $66,450. Though the film is still a hit, the film really was a turning point for Judy and made her transition to a more mature actress. Number 11. Girl Crazy. Based on the 1930s stage musical, It tells the story of a young philandering playboy, played by Mickey Rooney, who is sent to college in the American West and puts on a show alongside a beautiful girl in order to save the college from closure due to low enrollment.
A Western rodeo once a year will bring back the West. Daniel Boone!
Jesse James and Buffalo Bill.
100 beautiful girls.
On horseback.
Glorious costumes, happy, carefree.
Yay!
Yeah, and once a year we'll choose the most beautiful girl to be the queen. We'll make her queen of the rodeo. Sure. My little kids will be begging their mothers to send them out here.
This was the last of 9 films both Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney did where they played opposite each other, and the last of the so-called backyard musicals in which Mickey Rooney wants to put on a show. Originally, the film was to star Fred Astaire and Eleanor Powell as a follow-up to Broadway Melody of 1940. It was musical arranger and Garland's mentor, Roger Edens, who suggested that she and Rooney to star in as one more backyard musical. The first scene that was shot was the final musical number, I Got Rhythm.
Look at what I've got. I got rhythm, I got music, I got my man who could ask for anything more.
At the time, the director was Busby Berkeley, who had directed the other backyard musicals with Garland and Rooney, beginning with Babes in Arms. But by that point, the relationship between Berkeley and Garland soured due to his tyrannical and sometimes emotionally abusive approach to directing. Also, MGM was very upset with him spending an unheard of amount of money just for this one musical number. Eventually, production was shut down and Berkeley was unceremoniously fired. To replace him was Norman Taurog, whom Garland had a really good relationship with. Released in 1943, Girl Crazy was one of the top box office hits of that year.
Who could ask for anything more?
Number 10. Everybody Sing. Released in 1938, Everybody Sing involves a young girl expelled from a conservative all-girls school.
In my singing school, I am one of many who is just a fool. Mr. Mendelssohn's had his day, many good man's here to stay. Die-be-die-do, die-die-do-die-die-die, ra-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, hey-hey-hey-hey-hey-oh-oh-oh.
In order to escape from her dysfunctional family, she tries out for a minstrel show where she acts in blackface. Viewers take note. These minstrel shows depicted in this film are not politically correct by today's standards, but remember, back then this was standard practice since roles for African Americans were few and far between. It's unfortunate that she had to do this, but we can't just erase it from existence or deny that this practice ever happened because that would just be flat out dishonest. At this point, Judy's career was pretty much at a standstill, so this was the film that started her rise to stardom. Still, it's worth a watch to see Judy grow as an actress. She has some very sweet scenes, and even manages to play really well with some of the other performers, such as Reginald Owen.
You can't hold me down. I'm going up, up, up.
You bet you're going up. Up, up to your room and stay there.
And Billy Burke.
Darling, I do wish you'd stop growing. And look at your hair. Oh, poor little ugly duckling. Well, well, Mother loves you anyway.
Number 9. Listen, Darling. Released in 1938, Listen, Darling tells the story of a young girl and her friend kidnapping her mother in an attempt to save her from getting into a loveless marriage.
Daddy, I don't want you to have to marry anybody just because you want a new roof or you want me to go to school or you want to get Billy's teeth straightened or anything.
This was the film in which Judy sang the song Zing went the strings of my heart.
Dear, when you smiled at me, I heard a melody. It haunted me from the start.
At that time, this was her signature song. It was also the song she sang on radio on the day her father, Frank Gum, was on his deathbed from spinal meningitis. Judy's mother, Ethel, not at all distraught by her husband's passing as Judy was, began dating a man named Will Gilmore and eventually would marry. As if to add insult to injury, they married on the anniversary of Frank Gum's death. Judy called it, quote, "the most awful thing that ever happened to me. My mother marrying that awful man the same day my daddy died."
Oh, Daddy, we're only here. He'd do something.
This was also the only film in which she co-starred with Freddie Bartholomew. While filming, Bartholomew had a major crush on Judy. Who could blame him? So much so he would pin love notes to her dressing room. But to Bartholomew's dismay, Judy looked upon him as a younger brother. This was the last film Judy made before making the film that gave her immortality. But more on that later. Number 8. Strike Up the Band. Released in 1940, Strike Up the Band involves a young high school boy destined to become a musician. Alongside his lovely friend Mary, they put on big band shows in the hopes of making it big. This was the second of the backyard musicals Judy and Mickey Rooney did, and again under the direction of Busby Berkeley. Though in this film, Mickey Rooney is really the main focal point and Judy is there just for support, but still the on-screen chemistry between Judy and Mickey Rooney still makes this a film to see. It was also a film to really showcase America in the shadow of the Second World War. We were involved with the war until a year after this film was released, but still it was a film whose sole purpose was to feed into the spirit of nationalism. In addition to Judy and Mickey Rooney, Strike Up the Band also includes Paul Whiteman and his orchestra. The film also includes an amazing, elaborate musical number called The La Conga.
In Havana, every Cubana shakes her bandana to the La Conga.
Number 7. Babes in Arms. Based on the Rodgers and Hart musical, Babes in Arms involves vaudevillians going out on the road, leaving behind their children. So in desperation, the kids decide to put on a show and raise money to show their families that they, to quote Winston Zeddemore, have the tools and the talent.
I'm gonna write a show for us and put it on right here in Seaport. Most up-to-date thing these hicks around here have ever seen. Opening night we'll have Max Gordon, Sam Harris, Lee Schubert down to give us the once-over. How about it, kids?
This was the first of the backyard musicals and the first film at MGM to be directed by Busby Berkeley. Also, this was the first film Arthur Freed was given screen credit. This wasn't the first film Judy and Mickey Rooney did together. They had appeared in the film Thoroughbreds Don't Cry and Did Love Finds Andy Hardy. Though the film is based on the Rodgers and Hart musical, only 3 of their songs are sung in this film. Opening in 1939, the golden year of Hollywood, Babes in Arms was a massive success. At the film's premiere, Judy Garland was immortalized at the courtyard of Grauman's Chinese Theater, and Mickey Rooney was even nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor. Number 6. For Me and My Gal. Released in 1942, it tells the remarkable true story of 2 vaudeville performers who fall in love with each other, and their love is put to the test with the onslaught of World War I. For Me and My Gal was the first film in which Judy Garland got top billing over the title. Also, it was the first movie that introduced us to Gene Kelly. Kelly was brought to Hollywood by David O. Selznick, but was unable to secure him a vehicle. Judy had seen Kelly perform on Broadway in a production of Pal Joey. MGM didn't want Kelly, but Judy fought to get him, and she did, and it was the beginning of a remarkable career at MGM.
Hey, what's the big idea? Say, you're not crying because you feel sorry for me, are you? Well, look, there's no need to do that, because just tonight I was over at Eve's, and she asked me... Oh, Joe, please don't cry. Please, I'm not worth it, I tell you.
I can't help it.
Oh, honey, I wish it'd stop.
Both Judy and Kelly got on so well, to the point where Judy backed up Kelly during a heated argument between Kelly and the film's director, Busby Berkeley. Since the film came out around the time of World War II, since we had entered the war following the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, it became imperative that the draft-dodging character played by Kelly be portrayed as sympathetic to the wartime audiences, so certain scenes were reshot following initial preview screenings to appease the audience. But still, the movie was a major success, earning over $2 million in profit.
Here comes that Loveland again.
In Loveland for me and my gal.
Number 5. Easter Parade. Released in 1948, Easter Parade is the story of a nightclub performer who hires a chorus girl in order to make his former dance partner jealous. This was the first and only film that paired Judy with the legendary Fred Astaire.
I lead you on for 4 counts, starting with your left foot. Half turn to the right, drop to a curtsy as I bow to you. On the count of 5, rise slowly. Twist to the right, then to the left. Right arm fully extended in preparation for the first lift.
Beg your pardon?
In fact, it was Gene Kelly who was originally slated for Astaire's role, but an ankle injury caused him to drop out. Astaire had retired at that point. Eager to work again, Astaire consulted with Kelly if it was okay with him taking over. Kelly was naturally pleased with this and supported the decision.
We're a couple of swells. We stop at the best hotels, but we prefer the country far away from the city smells.
Judy had never actually met Astaire face-to-face before they did this film, as she was afraid to speak to him until they were formally introduced. Also included is Ann Miller, making her first film for MGM, and Peter Lawford in a role originally intended for Frank Sinatra.
I'm just a fella with an umbrella, looking for a girl who saved her love for a rainy day.
Easter Parade was the highest-grossing MGM film that year, and Roger Edens was even given an Oscar for scoring the film. It's such a beautiful-looking movie. Number 4. Judgment at Nuremberg. Released in 1961, the film is a fictional account of the third of 12 trials for war crimes in which surviving Nazis were being tried for the horrible crimes against humanity, such as the Holocaust. In the film, Judy plays a German woman who, at the age of 16, had a sexual relation with a Jewish man, a violation of the Nuremberg race laws under Adolf Hitler's regime. This was Judy Garland's first film after a 7-year absence. By that point, she was branded as being difficult and being unreliable, as she was struggling with the disease of addiction. Judy only has 18 minutes of screen time in this film, but still her performance was so electric, she was awarded with her second Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress, only to get defeated by Rita Moreno, who took the prize for West Side Story. In addition to Judy Garland, the film also stars Spencer Tracy, Burt Lancaster, Marlene Dietrich, Montgomery Clift, Richard Widmark, William Shatner, and Maximilian Schell in his Oscar-winning performance as the defense attorney.
It is easy to condemn the German people, to speak of the basic flaw in the German character that allowed Hitler to rise to power, but at the same time, comfortably ignore the basic flaw of character that made the Russians sign pacts with him, Winston Churchill praise him, American despots profit by him.
The scene that defines the whole movie for me is the scene between Maximilian Schell and Judy Garland.
What are you trying to do? Are you trying to... Why do you not let me speak the truth?
That's what we want, Mrs. Wallner. The truth, the truth.
According to Schell, he said of this scene, quote, "Before we filmed the scene where I cross-examined her, Judy asked me, 'Can you hit me more off camera? Be tougher on me, because then I can feel more, I can give more.' She had to break down and get tears, and so I did it for her, much more than what was written in the script. I invented a lot of things until she finally broke down. Then afterwards she sent me flowers and a little note that said, 'Thank you for being so mean to me.'" And I firmly believe that this scene helped Maximilian Schell win the Academy Award. Number 3. A Star is Born. The first remake of the 1937 film starring Janet Gaynor and Frederick March, A Star is Born is the story of a film star portrayed by James Mason, helping a young singer and actress reach stardom while his career is on the downward spiral. This was advertised as Judy's comeback film following her dismissal from MGM in 1950. It was Judy's then-husband, producer Sid Luft, who secured a deal with Warner Brothers to finance the film. When the film started production, a considerable amount of footage was shot, but then the studio decided to shut down and reshoot them all again in the new CinemaScope format in order to compete with television. This was the film in which Judy Garland sang this iconic song called "The Man That Got Away," a scene that had been shot and reshot numerous times.
The night is bitter, the stars have lost their glitter, the winds grow colder, suddenly you're older, and all because of the man that got away.
For me, the scene that really cuts deep is the scene between Judy and Charles Bickford.
You don't know what it's like to watch somebody you love just crumble away bit by bit, day by day, in front of your eyes, and stand there helpless.
The film's director, George Cukor, was the kind of director who would push his leading ladies to the brink and capturing it on film. It has been said that Cukor drove Judy so hard that before filming the first take of the scene, she vomited. She did the scene again and again until Cukor was satisfied. When they finished the take that was in the finished film, Judy was sobbing uncontrollably. Cukor walked up, put his hand on her shoulder, and said, "Judy, Marjorie Main couldn't have done that any better." When the film was first released, it got glowing reviews and strong word of mouth, but Warner Brothers, fearing the film's nearly 3-hour running time would limit the number of screenings, decided to hack the film to pieces, leaving the film to die at the box office. Judy would win a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy, and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress. Everyone in the industry thought she was going to win, but it was given to Grace Kelly for The Country Girl. Groucho Marx called it the biggest robbery since Brinks. But still, she had her newborn son Joey Luft as her own Academy Award. Eventually, the deleted scenes were found and restored in 1983, sometimes using still photos in some scenes, since the soundtrack survived, but the footage was lost. Still, it's one of Judy's most important films in her body of work. Number 2. Meet Me in St. Louis. Based on the book by Sally Benson, tells the story of a middle-class family, the Smiths, during the time of the St. Louis World's Fair in the turn of the century. Amazing but true, Judy did not want to do this movie at first. She was beginning to do more adult roles and didn't want to play a teenager in love with the boy next door. But with a little coaxing from the film's director Vincent Minnelli, she accepted. It was on this film that both Judy and Minnelli would fall in love. Minnelli even goes so far as expressing his love for Judy using his camera. This was the first time Judy felt that she looked beautiful on film, though from my point of view she was beautiful in every film.
What a nice compliment.
This film features 3 songs that would forever be part of her repertoire. The Boy Next Door.
How can I ignore the boy next door? I love him more than I can say.
The Trolley Song.
Clang, clang, clang went the trolley. Ding, ding, ding went the bell. Zing, zing, zing went my heartstrings. From the moment I saw him, I fell.
And Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. Next year all our troubles will be out of sight.
The film was such a major success when it opened in 1944. It eventually became a stage show on Broadway for a couple of years. I even did a production of it for my community theater. I played Warren Sheffield. It was one of my 5 favorite roles I've ever played on stage. It was also this film that gave child star Margaret O'Brien a juvenile Oscar.
I was drunk last night, dear mother. I was drunk the night before. But if you'll forgive me, mother, I'll never get drunk anymore.
And my number 1 favorite Judy Garland performance is The Wizard of Oz. Predictable, I know. But the fact of the matter is that The Wizard of Oz is the film that Judy Garland is most remembered for. Hell, for a lot of people, most, if not all of us, were introduced to her when we were shown this film.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
In the film, she plays Kansas farm girl Dorothy Gale. Swept by a tornado into a colorful wonderland of Oz, a world of dancing munchkins, scarecrows, lions, and wicked witches.
Oh, dear. I keep forgetting I'm not in Kansas.
Now, I've spoken about this film in my editorial, The Magic of the Wizard of Oz, which you can find on YouTube, and it covers a lot of information, such as the fact that Judy was always in mind to play Dorothy from the very beginning, but the New York offices of MGM Loews Incorporated suggested Shirley Temple, but was unable to be released from 20th Century Fox. It was also this film that gave her and the rest of the world her signature song, Over the Rainbow, my second favorite movie song of all time.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby.
What most people tend to overlook about her is what an amazing performance as Dorothy Gale. You believe her with everything that's happening in the film. You're on her side. You sympathize with her and her companions. If they had cast a different actress, it would have fallen apart.
I'm here in Oz, Annie Ann. I'm locked up in the witch's castle, and I'm trying to get home to you, Annie Ann.
It was this film that gave Judy Garland a juvenile Oscar, or as she refers to it as her Munchkin Oscar. Still, this is the film that gave her cinema immortality and is undoubtedly Judy Garland's greatest performance. The Wizard of Oz, my number one favorite Judy Garland performance.
If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the